Behind the golden gates of Hollywood lies a statistic that studio executives prefer to bury in unmarked graves. 15 names. 15 brilliant lights extinguished not by age, illness, or accident, but by the very substances that promised escape from the pressures of fame. From the teenage heartthrob who collapsed outside a legendary nightclub to the Oscar winner found with a needle in his arm, these stories reveal a pattern that the entertainment industry has spent decades trying to hide. What transforms celebrated artists into cautionary tales? What drives those who seemingly have everything to seek solace in chemicals that ultimately destroy them? The answer lies not in moral failure, but in a system that creates gods and then abandons them to their humanity. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because stories like these need to be told, remembered, and learned from. River Phoenix, the golden boy who fell to earth? River Phoenix embodied everything Hollywood promised the world about young American talent. Born into a nomadic family that drifted through religious communes, he possessed an otherworldly sensitivity that translated into performances of startling authenticity. His breakthrough in Stand By Me revealed an artist who could channel raw human emotion through the camera lens. By his early 20s, Phoenix had established himself as the conscience of his generation. He championed environmental causes, maintained strict veganism, and played haunting music with his band Alekazatic. Critics hailed him as the heir to James Dean's rebellious spirit, but with a gentleness Dean never possessed. Yet beneath the public image of the enlightened young star, Phoenix battled demons that few suspected. Drug use had begun in his teens, initially with psychedelics that seemed to complement his spiritual searching. By 1993, harder substances had taken hold. October 31st, 1993, Halloween night at the Viper Room. Phoenix consumed a lethal cocktail of cocaine and heroin. At 1:15 a.m., he collapsed on Sunset Boulevard, convulsing as his brother Joaquin called for help. River Phoenix was pronounced dead at 1:51 a.m. He was 23 years old, his potential forever frozen in time. Philip Seymour Hoffman, the master's final performance. Philip Seymour Hoffman possessed the rare gift of complete transformation. Born in Fairport, New York, he discovered theater as a teenager and immediately understood that acting was his calling. What made Hoffman extraordinary wasn't his ability to disappear into roles, but his courage to find humanity in characters others would dismiss. His Oscar-winning portrayal of Truman Capote represented months of meticulous preparation. Hoffman studied footage, read personal letters, and practiced Capote's distinctive voice until he could channel the writer's essence. The result wasn't mimicry, but resurrection. For 23 years, Hoffman maintained sobriety after recognizing addiction's destructive potential in his early 20s. He built a family with costume designer Mimi O'Donnell, raised 3 children, and created impressive work spanning Magnolia, The Big Lebowski, and The Hunger Games. But addiction waited for its moment to resurface. In 2012, Hoffman began using prescription drugs and alcohol. The progression to heroin followed predictable patterns. February 2, 2014. Writer David Katz discovered Hoffman's body in his Greenwich Village bathroom, a needle still in his arm. The autopsy revealed a cocktail of heroin, cocaine, benzodiazepines, and amphetamines. The master of transformation had performed his final role. Heath Ledger, The Perfectionist's Curse. Heath Ledger approached acting like a method scientist, dissecting characters with surgical precision until he could inhabit their psychological landscape. Born in Perth, Australia, he abandoned conventional education at 16 to pursue his craft, driven by an intensity that would define both his triumphs and downfall. Brokeback Mountain showcased Ledger's fearless commitment to complex characters. His portrayal of Ennis Del Mar earned him an Oscar nomination and critical acclaim. but his preparation for the Joker in The Dark Knight revealed the dangerous depths of his method. Ledger spent months studying the psychology of madness, keeping detailed character journals, and experimenting with voices and mannerisms. He locked himself away for weeks, emerging only to test new interpretations. Friends noticed changes, increased isolation, difficulty sleeping, an obsession with perfection that bordered on self-destruction. Personal struggles compounded his professional intensity. His relationship with Michelle Williams had ended, leaving him separated from their daughter Matilda. Insomnia plagued him, leading to dependence on prescription medications that promised rest, but delivered only temporary relief. January 22, 2008. Ledger was found dead in his New York apartment, killed by an accidental overdose of prescription drugs, including painkillers, sedatives, and sleeping pills. He was 28 years old. Cory Monteith, the quarterback who lost the game. Cory Monteith's life read like a redemption story, interrupted at its most hopeful chapter. Born in Calgary, raised in Victoria, he experienced family fracturing at 7 when his parents divorced. By 13, alcohol and marijuana had become escape mechanisms. By 15, cocaine, ecstasy, and OxyContin controlled his existence. At 19, after a binge that nearly killed him, Monteith chose recovery. With his mother's support, he completed rehabilitation, earned his high school diploma, and tried acting. In 2009, he auditioned for Glee, landing the role of Finn Hudson, a quarterback who discovers his love for music. Glee became a cultural phenomenon, combining musical numbers with storylines about acceptance and identity. Monteith's character evolved from stereotypical jock to sensitive young man, and his real-life romance with co-star Lea Michele added authenticity to their relationship. For years, Monteith embodied second chances. He spoke openly about addiction, inspiring young people facing similar struggles. But fame brought new pressures that tested his sobriety. In 2013, stress triggered a relapse. After rehabilitation in March, he appeared to be recovering. In July, during a Vancouver visit, he checked into the Fairmont Pacific Rim Hotel, July 13, 2013. When Monteith failed to check out, hotel staff found him dead from heroin and alcohol poisoning. He was 31 years old. Chris Farley, the comedian who cried inside. Chris Farley possessed the rare ability to make strangers love him within seconds of meeting his characters. Born in Madison, Wisconsin to an Irish Catholic family, he discovered early that humor could transform pain into connection, loneliness into laughter, and insecurity into applause. At Chicago's Second City, Farley honed his physical comedy style, developing characters that combined manic energy with unexpected vulnerability. His 1990 arrival at Saturday Night Live marked the beginning of his legend. Matt Foley, the hyperactive motivational speaker who lived in a van down by the river, became one of SNL's most beloved recurring characters. Tommy Boy proved Farley could carry a feature film, his partnership with David Spade creating a comedy dynamic that audiences embraced. But success couldn't fill the void that had driven him to perform. Colleagues described a man of extraordinary kindness who used humor as armor against profound loneliness and self-doubt. Farley's struggles with obesity, depression, and addiction were interconnected battles he fought daily. Food, alcohol, and drugs all served as temporary escapes from the pressure to always be on, to constantly generate laughter while experiencing little joy himself. December 18th, 1997. Farley was found dead in his Chicago apartment, killed by cocaine and morphine poisoning, complicated by heart disease. He was 33 years old. John Belushi, the Blues Brothers' final song. John Belushi helped define American comedy for a generation, his explosive energy and improvisational genius making him the breakout star of Saturday Night Live's original cast. Born to Albanian immigrants in Chicago, he understood the outsider's perspective that fueled his rebellious comic characters. The Blues Brothers began as an SNL sketch, but evolved into a multimedia phenomenon. Belushi and Dan Aykroyd's musical partnership produced chart-topping albums and the classic film that celebrated American rhythm and blues tradition. Simultaneously, his role in Animal House established him as a movie star capable of controlled chaos. Belushi's lifestyle matched his on-screen intensity. He worked at superhuman pace, often staying awake for days while preparing sketches, then using alcohol and drugs to crash between performances. Friends recognized the dangerous pattern, but found Belushi resistant to intervention. His drug use escalated from recreational to functional to destructive. Cocaine became his constant companion, providing energy for his demanding schedule while slowly eroding his judgment and health. By 1982, he was using heroin as well. March 5, 1982. Belushi was found dead at the Chateau Marmont Hotel in Hollywood, killed by a speedball, the lethal combination of cocaine and heroin. He was 33 years old. His revolutionary comedy career cut short. Bradley Nowell, the sublime voice. Silenced. Bradley Nowell created a musical fusion that defined the 1990s California sound, blending reggae, punk rock, and ska into something uniquely American. As Sublime's frontman, he crafted songs that captured laid-back beach culture while addressing deeper themes of addiction, love, and social consciousness. Born in Long Beach, California, Nowell began playing guitar as a child and formed Sublime in 1988 with bassist Eric Wilson and drummer Bud Gaw. Their sound reflected Southern California's multicultural music scene, incorporating influences from Bob Marley, The Clash, and Bad Brains into original compositions. Nowell's struggle with heroin addiction was well known within music circles. What began as teenage experimentation evolved into full-blown dependency by the 1990s. He tried repeatedly to get clean, especially after his son Jacob's birth in 1995, but the drug's grip proved stronger. Despite his addiction, Nowell continued writing and performing with remarkable creativity. Songs like Santeria and What I Got showcased his ability to channel personal pain into universally appealing music. The band's loyal following grew steadily, and record labels began taking notice. May 25, 1996. Just 7 weeks before Sublime's major label debut album was scheduled for release, Nowell was found dead in a San Francisco hotel room, killed by heroin poisoning. He was 28 years old. Dashel Mihawk. The Promise Unfulfilled. Dashel Mihawk represented Hollywood's countless aspiring actors who possess talent but struggle against an industry that chews up dreams. Born in New York, he appeared in popular television series including Gilmore Girls and Bones, building a respectable resume while hoping for his breakthrough moment. Colleagues recognized Mihawk's natural ability and professionalism, qualities that should have led to larger opportunities. He studied his craft seriously, approached each role with dedication, and maintained the networking relationships essential for career advancement in entertainment. But Hollywood's competitive environment creates pressure that can overwhelm even strong personalities. The constant rejection, financial uncertainty, and comparison to more successful peers gradually wore down Mihawk's optimism and self-confidence. Initially, drugs provided temporary relief from anxiety and disappointment. What began as occasional recreational use to cope with stress evolved into regular dependence that he hid from friends and family. The substances that promised to ease his pain only created additional problems. As his addiction deepened, Mihawk's ability to work consistently diminished. Missed auditions, unprofessional behavior, and visible deterioration damaged his reputation within the industry's tight-knit community. September 14, 2010. Mihawk was found dead in his Los Angeles apartment, killed by heroin poisoning. He was 36 years old, his potential forever unrealized. Jonathan Brandis, the child star's impossible transition. Jonathan Brandis experienced the unique pressures of growing up in public, his teenage years documented by cameras and scrutinized by millions of viewers. His role as Lucas Wolinchak on Sequest DSV made him a heartthrob for young audiences, but also trapped him in an image he would struggle to escape. Born in Connecticut, Brandis began acting as a child and quickly demonstrated natural charisma that translated well to television. Sequest DSV provided him with steady work and fan recognition, but the science fiction series ended after 3 seasons, leaving him to navigate the treacherous transition from child actor to adult performer. Unlike some young stars who successfully reinvent themselves, Brandis found meaningful adult roles elusive. Casting directors saw him as the teenage character he had played, not the mature actor he was becoming. Financial pressures mounted as steady television income disappeared. Depression and alcohol dependency developed gradually, exacerbated by professional disappointments and the isolation that many former child stars experience. His early success became a burden rather than an asset, creating expectations he couldn't fulfill while limiting opportunities for growth. Friends and family attempted to provide support, but Brandis struggled with the psychological transition from celebrated teenager to struggling adult actor. November 12, 2003. Brandis hanged himself in his Hollywood apartment, leaving behind a note expressing hope that death would bring the peace he couldn't find in life. He was 27 years old. Dana Plato. Different strokes, same ending. Dana Plato's trajectory from beloved child star to tragic cautionary tale illustrates how early fame can become a prison from which escape seems impossible. As Kimberly Drummond on Different Strokes, she played the privileged white daughter in a progressive sitcom that tackled social issues while entertaining family audiences. Born in Oklahoma and adopted as an infant, Plato found stability and identity through her television role. The series ran for 8 successful seasons, providing her with financial security and public recognition during her formative years. But when Different Strokes ended in 1986, transitioning to adult roles proved nearly impossible. Casting directors couldn't separate her from her childhood character, and opportunities for meaningful work disappeared almost immediately. Financial problems followed quickly, as the steady income she had known throughout her youth evaporated. Depression and drug use became coping mechanisms for the sudden absence of purpose and identity. In 1991, Plato's desperation led her to rob a pharmacy while attempting to obtain prescription drugs. The arrest destroyed her remaining reputation and eliminated any possibility of returning to legitimate entertainment work. Subsequent arrests for shoplifting and drug possession further cemented her fall from grace. Personal relationships deteriorated as addiction consumed her life. She had a son who would grow up watching his mother's public destruction through tabloid headlines. May 8, 1999. Plato died from an overdose of Valium and Vicodin. She was 34 years old, her promising childhood career having become the catalyst for lifelong struggle. Edward Furlong, the Terminator who almost terminated himself. Edward Furlong's discovery at age 13 seemed like a Hollywood fairy tale, plucked from obscurity to star opposite Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator 2: Judgment Day. His natural performance as John Connor launched him into international stardom, but also set him on a path towards self-destruction that would span decades. Born in California and raised by a single mother, Furlong had no preparation for sudden fame and the adult responsibilities that accompanied it. Without proper guidance or support systems, he found himself navigating Hollywood's complex social dynamics while still developing his own identity. Drug experimentation began during his teenage years, initially seeming like typical adolescent rebellion, but gradually evolving into serious addiction that affected his professional relationships and career prospects. Directors who had once competed to work with him began viewing him as unreliable and problematic. Throughout the 1990s and 2000s, Furlong's battles with substance abuse played out publicly through arrests, court appearances, and failed rehabilitation attempts. Each relapse seemed to push him further from his early promise and deeper into the margins of the entertainment industry. In 2011, Furlong was hospitalized after an overdose that nearly claimed his life. The incident served as a wake-up call that finally motivated him to pursue serious recovery. Unlike many of his peers, he survived his darkest moment and began rebuilding his life. Today, Furlong's story continues, representing the possibility that redemption remains achievable even after the deepest falls. These 11 stories share common threads that reveal uncomfortable truths about fame, success, and human vulnerability. Each person possessed remarkable talent that brought joy or entertainment to millions. Yet talent alone proved insufficient protection against the pressures that celebrity culture creates. The pattern emerges clearly. Early success without proper support systems. The pressure to maintain impossibly high standards. Isolation despite constant public attention, and the absence of genuine relationships that could provide stability during crisis moments. Drugs became not recreational choices, but desperate attempts to manage unbearable psychological pain. Their deaths weren't inevitable tragedies, but preventable losses that occurred because the entertainment industry prioritizes profit over people. Behind every glamorous facade lies a human being struggling with the same fears and insecurities that everyone experiences. Fame amplifies these struggles rather than resolving them. Perhaps their greatest gift lies not in their performances, but in their cautionary examples. They remind us that success measured only in box office receipts misses the most important metric, the ability to preserve one's humanity amid celebrity chaos. True success requires wisdom, support systems, and the courage to seek help when darkness approaches. If their stories have moved you, share this video to honor their memory and perhaps help someone who needs to hear these lessons today.